Hey, friends. Happy
Hello,
Friday.
everyone. Yay. Shelly and I are together. That never happens, hardly ever.
Seriously. And
Well,
we're
at
in the
least
same
not.
house.
I know. Super fun.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen and Carol's in her office. So we're having a grand old time. Welcome, y'all, back to FUNfiltered. Y'all, I am Shelly Brown, for those who don't know me just yet. And today we are doing another special Q&A episode, which we always love because these are real questions from real authors, not fake authors. These are real authors. Um, and today we're going to be talking and answering questions about email consistency in person book launches, using a pen name for personal stories, and stepping into speaking after writing multiple books. So those are some things we're going to cover. And as always, hey, Carol, I'm here with my friend and co-host, Carol Tetzlaff.
Here I am. I am glad to be here today. So I love the Q&A episode because it lets us talk about what authors are actually wrestling with. Not big picture strategy, but really practical and sometimes kind of awkward. How do I actually do this? So we're going to jump into our first question, and it's from our author, Rob Johnson. He's getting ready to launch a book, I think, next week. So that's super fun. So he has a book called The Word on OCD, What the Bible Has to Say About Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And he has a question about email. So let's think through this. And I think Shelly's kind of the email genius, so I'm going to let her answer this one. Here's his question. So when it comes to maintaining an ongoing relationship with our readers through an email newsletter or whatever other regular means of communication for that matter, should we be more concerned with consistency, like arriving every Tuesday, or on reserving these touch bases only for times when we have something truly newsworthy to say?
Yeah. So the short answer is consistency matters more than waiting for something newsworthy. All right. So that's the short answer. Now for the longer answer. The reason that is the case, that consistency does matter, whereas your newsletter is not just an announcement tool, right? It's a relationship tool. Okay. So Rob, if you're listening, and for everyone else who wants to build their email list, that's a super important distinction there. So if you only email when you have big news, like a book launch is coming up or an event, or you have something to sell, your readers are going to learn really quickly that your emails are mostly about you, right? So if you show up consistently, though, with encouragement and insight, a short story here and there, scripture reflection, practical tips, something that really serves your reader, then you're going to build trust over time. Okay. So listen, that doesn't mean that you have to email every Tuesday forever and ever for the rest of your life if that rhythm is unrealistic for you. You don't have to do that. The reality is, for most authors, once or twice a month is a strong and sustainable rhythm. Now, if you can do weekly and truly serve your reader each week, then by all means do weekly. But resist the urge to do that. I'll email when I have something important to say, because usually that kind of strategy, or lack of strategy really, usually ends up becoming silence, and you put it off, and then all of a sudden you have something that comes up and you shoot out an email, and it doesn't build the relationship in that case. Okay. So be consistent. And here's the thing too, don't confuse consistency with forcing content. All right. Your email does not have to be long. It doesn't have to be profound or newsworthy every single time. All right. It just needs to be valuable and personal, and connected to the message that God's entrusted to you. So here's a simple rule of thumb. 3 things that you can keep in mind. Serve regularly, easy for you to say. Serve regularly, announce occasionally, and sell thoughtfully. All right. Serve regularly. I don't know why I can't say that. Announce occasionally and sell thoughtfully. That's how an email list becomes more than just a list. Okay. It becomes a warm community of readers who know you, who trust you, and are much more likely to respond to you when you do have something important and newsworthy to share. Okay. So we gave you a long answer there for your question, but I hope that that was helpful. All right, Carol, you ready for a question?
I'm ready.
Okay. Awesome. Devin Holman asks, one of our authors as well. She's currently writing her book that will be out within the next couple of months, I think. Devin asks for tips for an in-person book launch celebration. She says, I'm feeling weird asking people to speak at it. The whole thing just feels uncomfortable. So she's trying to plan some fun things to go along with it. So what are your thoughts on that, Carol?
Yeah. So I really like that question because I just walked through my own in-person launch this week. And honest, sometimes things can feel uncomfortable, but asking people to come or someone to share, planning a night that really honors your book without making it feel like, look at me, that really makes the connection that you're going to have at your launch so much stronger. I mean, I had a bunch of people, including Shelley Brown, share at my book launch. And I just felt like if I just get up there and talk all the time, I mean, I can certainly do a 45-minute like teaching, but to get people who love me and have supported me and that I know are just so genuine about their faith and they're true to the word, like to have them read scripture and pray and share, that was so I think it was super meaningful, and it wasn't just one voice. So here's what I kind of shifted on, and I had this kind of epiphany moment even as I was planning it. But don't think of it as an event centered on you. Think of it as a celebration of the message God's entrusted to you. So for your book, Devin, really familiar with it. So it's called Messy Days, Mighty God. I would really lean into the beauty of that message. Your launch doesn't have to feel super polished, perfect, or even overly formal. In fact, it probably shouldn't, because the heart of your book is that women don't need a perfect schedule or a quiet house or a less busy season to grow closer to Jesus. So let the evening reflect it. You could create maybe a warm, relaxed, messy, but meaningful gathering where women, men, kids, whoever you want to invite, feel seen and not necessarily impressed. So a few ideas that you could do is maybe have a messy day testimony moment where 2 or 3 women briefly share about a season when God met them in the middle of ordinary chaos. So it's not a long speech. It's just a simple 3-minute encouragement. So Shelley, you said something when we were talking about this about the scripture sticky note wall. Can you share a little bit about that?
The sticky note wall, yeah, where you can just share one verse, maybe one prayer, something, where God met me in the middle of tight moment, right? And so it becomes interactive and visual, and deeply connected to the message.
Yeah, I love that idea. And actually on your cover, Devin, you have a sticky note. So it's so appropriate for that. I love that Shelley came up with that one. Maybe you could even do a 30-day devotional commitment card where women choose, they're going to start the devotional. They're going to write down a simple rhythm they want to practice, like 10 minutes before bed or scripture before they scroll, or maybe even praying when they're driving somewhere with their eyes open. So that could be kind of a fun activity to do. You could set up a real life rhythm table with practical prompts for the devotional. So like, what's one way you could meet with Jesus this week? Or where do you usually feel most overwhelmed? Or maybe even what ordinary moment could it become a place of prayer? And then have some fun. Your theme is actually very fun. Even the name of your book, and it really speaks true to life, it still has this element of engagement in it. And so you could serve coffee in mismatched mugs, or go to Goodwill on a sale day and buy a bunch of like old funny mugs. They have all kinds of crazy stuff there. And use that. Maybe everybody takes one home. And then you could have a messy bun welcome or a simple table card that says things like, God waiting in your life, calm down before he meets with you. And so let's address her question about asking people. If it feels awkward, maybe don't ask them to speak at your launch. Ask them something smaller and more personal. And this is kind of what I did. Would you be willing to share one scripture, a 2 or 3 minute thought on how God meets us in ordinary, messy seasons? You see, that feels a lot less intimidating than like, tell me your story. And let's talk about that for 20 minutes. It keeps really the focus where it belongs, and it's not on performing, but it's encouraging the women in the room. So basically, having an in-person launch, I think, is really important because you worked really hard, and it does have that celebration, and people want to celebrate you. I mean, even when I was planning mine, I'm like, are people even going to want to come? Like, do they want to be here? And oh my goodness, I had so many people come and say how meaningful the night was. And honestly, I barely did anything except put it together. So many people planned it and sang and did all the things that we needed. So, it's not about you. It's about what God has done through you and in you, your message. So you don't have to create the perfect launch. It's just to create a meaningful space where people can experience the heart of the book before they even open the first page. So,
yeah, that's so good. And I will add, Carol, I can't tell you how many times said, are people even going to come to my book launch? I said, of course they're going to come to your book launch. So what you're feeling, and you're not alone, Devin, and we all feel that way and have those insecurities, but just rest assured that God's entrusted you with a message. And so I love your advice, Carol. It's going to be good. I can't wait to see what you do, Devin.
I know. And like I did mine on a Tuesday. Like Tuesday's so unassuming.
Yeah, it is. And there's really no rules. You make the rules, right? And have fun. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so Shelley, let's do a question for you.
Okay.
So we have an author who would like to know, if your story is too personal to share publicly but needs to be shared, is it feasible to use a pen name?
That's a really good question. Yes, the answer is yes. Using a pen name can absolutely be feasible. And in some cases, it can actually be wise to do that. But here's the thing. A pen name is not a magic shield, okay? A pen name can help create that layer of privacy between you as the author and the public, especially when the story involves trauma, family history, if there's abuse, addictions, betrayal, ministry wounds, involves public people or public ministries, or other deeply personal experiences. It may allow the author to share a message that does need to be shared, like you have the author of this question asked, that it does need to be shared, but without making every part of your private life easily searchable. Okay. So here's where authors need to be careful, though, because I think it's important to talk about this. If the story includes real people, real events, recognizable details, all right, or accusations of wrongdoing, a pen name does not automatically remove the legal, relational, and even ethical concerns. Okay, so there's more to be considered with this. People may still recognize themselves. Readers may still connect the dots, and we've got a lot of sleuths out there that could easily do that. So depending on what's being shared, there could be issues still. Now, I'm no legal expert, but just given the warnings that there still could be issues around defamation, privacy, safety, and even family fallout. So if the story is deeply personal, that involves living people, particularly living people, it's really wise to get professional guidance before you start your publishing journey. Okay. So I think it's important too, I'll just finish up with this, Carol, and add this, that the question's not only, can I use a pen name or should I use a pen name? But I think the better question might even be, what is the wisest and most redemptive way to tell this story? Okay. Sometimes the answer is a pen name. Sometimes the answer is changing identifying details. Sometimes the answer is writing the story as fiction inspired by real events, or all of the above for that matter. Sometimes the answer is waiting until more healing has taken place. And sometimes the answer is certainly telling the truth boldly, but with careful boundaries. So I hope that's helpful and answers your question. All right. Carol, do you have anything to add? I know that you've given some guidance over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people that have come with really hard stories or really notable stories. So things that, like, if they did write their story with their name on it, it really would be a detriment to family, to others that were involved in that storyline. And so, coming up with creative ways to do it, sometimes instead of telling a full story, you can tell little pieces of experiences in more of a devotional than a memoir. The other way that we're actually currently working with an author right now, and we've had a few do this, they tell their story as a fiction. So they, the basic storyline is true. They may take a few little liberties, but their story is still being out there, and it's still redemptive, and it's still being able to help people with the message that they have, but yet there is no connection except for the people that really know you, that you're doing it to you and the people that are in the story.
Yeah, that's really good. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up officially with this final question. I'm going to ask Carol one final question, but if you have any questions right now on the live, if you want to put them in the chat, we may be able to address one or two of them, and we'll take a look at that. I think Heather is in the background that she's monitoring, so we may be able to cover a couple more possibly. If we can't, we'll save them for the next time. All right, but go ahead and drop them in the chat in the meantime. So Carol, final question officially for our time. So this is from Linda Moore. Linda asked, and sweet Linda, if you're on, I can't see the chat. If you're on, we couldn't cover all of your questions in this episode, so we chose one right now to cover. So Linda asks, I've written 6 books in 6 years. She's a busy woman. She says, now it's time to step out into the speaking arena. So do I mention a book or two at every event? Interesting question. What do you say, Carol?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I'd answer this with a yes, but not always in the same way. So the goal is not to sell a book at every event. The goal is to serve the room and then give them the next step. So the better question is, which book best continues the conversation my message started? So that would be the book that you would promote from the platform.
That's really good.
You can have all your books there. Honestly, you can put them all on your table. I mean, I bring tons of books anytime I speak. So that's definitely what you want to do. People expect the speaker to have books. So if you've written all 6 books, you don't need to mention all 6. In fact, don't, because it really does overwhelm people and make your message feel scattered. It also becomes like a sales meeting instead of like really serving them. So think of your books as resources for different needs. So when you go to an event and you know what you're speaking on, ask questions like, what is this audience most likely carrying? And what do I want them to do with what God stirred up in them today? And perhaps even asking which book helps them take the next faithful step. So a simple rule of thumb is, as Shelley already shared one today, mention one primary book that directly connects to the message you gave. So you might say something like, if today's message stirred something in you and you want to keep walking this out with the Lord, this book would be the next best step. So that feels more pastoral and helpful, and it doesn't really feel pushy. And sometimes you may even, as you're speaking, you may have a paragraph or a quote or something from your book that you can actually read. I've seen lots of authors do that as they're speaking. And so that shows them like, wow, this book actually does have something in it that could help me. Yeah. Now, when would you mention a second book? Only really if there's a clear, natural reason. So for example, if your first book is a personal journey, so it really maybe extends the journey that you're telling. If you're telling maybe your story, your testimony, but the second book is designed for small groups or Bible studies, they could very easily be mentioned because they have two different, in some ways, purposes. So if you're walking through grief, this one will serve you. And if you're leading women through that same kind of pain, this one will guide you, or this one digs deeper into the grief using biblical text, or deeper into my story. So you could use that. So this is going to give people clarity instead of like option fatigue. So what I would not do is I would not say, I have 6 books on my table. Come check them all out as the main invitation. Now, sometimes, and this has happened to me, whoever is the host of the event or the MC, they'll bring books up and they'll talk about what I have at my table. But typically for us to talk about it, we probably want to limit it. So, of course, having them all available, but from the stage, really focus on the audience of the book that most clearly connects with that message they received. So, bottom line is this. Yes, mention your books at most of, mention a book at most event. Mention it as the next step for their journey, not as an announcement. So, you know, your book table wants to feel less like a sales table and more like, here's how you can keep walking after you leave the room. But definitely have all your resources on your table, because we all know too, like books bring credibility. And so if you have 6 books on your table versus just one, nothing wrong with just having one. But if you have, you know, it does show like, oh, she's been around a while. She has a message to share. So yeah. All right. Good. I think that's good. Anything else for that one, Shelley Brown?
That's it. Yeah. That's all for.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to have some content. Some content.
All right.
The question has the word content in it twice. So questions. So Shelley, you want to read it?
Does the email content in my Facebook group content have content kind of similar content?
So can Facebook and email be similar?
Be similar. Absolutely. You're going to speak out of what you know best, right? So there's nothing wrong with being repetitive with that. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation really, because on Facebook, having a group, you want to use that as a traffic source to get them into your email newsletter, right? So you do want to have some variety in what you share, but your messaging is going to be probably similar. How you pour into them is probably going to be similar because you have a theme or a topic that God's entrusted to you. So I'm not sure, and Carol, you can share your thoughts on this, but I'm not sure that I would take everything that I send out on my email and copy and paste that and put that in my Facebook group, right? You want to you want to continue to build that relationship with both, but you want it to be interchangeable. You want to get people out of Facebook onto your email list because that's who you own. That's, your asset. I was going to say you own them. You don't really own them, but you own their email address, right? Until they say, I don't want it anymore. On Facebook, you don't. You're borrowing it from, is it Zuckerberg? Zuck.
Yeah, Mark.
Yes.
Our friend Mark.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that I like the endpoint that you brought up because, your email is usually a bit more lengthy, more detailed, where your Facebook post, people scroll. So if you don't have something that's going to capture their attention right away and, be able to put that in there. So for example, if you, and use your Facebook or your Instagram to lead people to your email. So you may say, here are 3 ways to help someone who's walking on their cancer journey. So because Susan's writing a book on cancer, or she wrote a book. So then, your email is going to like go into depth, but maybe your Facebook will have just a caption that's very, attention getting. And then maybe you'll have for Instagram, like your little scroll. So you'll have like the 3 basic points. And then for more, go to, click my blog or click my newsletter. And a lot of people do that. They only put a little piece of it on their socials so that they can get people to see that they are offering so much more. And then you could also do it. I've done it before where I'll put, something more lengthy in my my email newsletter, but then I'll pull it apart and do 5 posts out of that one email, because we're not going to go into their email every day because that's annoying. But you show up on Facebook every day, you show up on Instagram every day, and it's easy to scroll by you if people don't want it. But it's also easy to see, like, oh, she's doing 3 tips and I'm going to get 1 a day for the next 3 days, So
Yeah, that's really good.
thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So what can you do if you are wanting a launch later than after the book spent out? What is the best path forward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, so Carrie, who this is,
Yes.
Your book has been out for at least the first book. And I know you have others. I don't know if they're actually out yet or if they're close to being out, but you can definitely like bring out the older books when you launch a book. I mean, I did that with Nehemiah and Ezra. So you can definitely have both. Honestly, depending on how you are promoting your book with people out in person, really every time they see it, it's kind of like you're launching it. So anytime you do a school event, you're launching it at that school, you're launching it in that community. So you can treat it as if they've never really seen it before, because most of them haven't. And there is no timeline when your book actually does release. So you don't have to do the launch the week that your book releases. You could do really focus on Amazon and getting reviews. And then maybe you're going to do some things because it's a certain season and you want to get out into the schools or into churches, and you do that. And then maybe let's do a huge party right before, if there's like a special month or Christmas, or do something with kids if you have a children's book, and maybe do it for Christmas, or do it for in the month of November for being thankful. I don't know, but you don't have to do everything right on top of each other. You can definitely spread it out. I mean, and if you do an in-person launch, it's a lot of work. I just want to sit still. I actually did my in-person with my Amazon, and thank goodness my Amazon is doing well, because I certainly am not having enough time to really leverage it like I should. And so because I had so many things going on. So yeah. Shelley, what do you think?
I think that's good. And I would agree. There really is no real timeline on it. You can stagger it. But if you have a new release that's coming out, I would definitely bring in your Arby, your first book. I think, is that your first? Is that Carrie's first book?
Arby.
Guide dog named Arby. I can't talk. I'm talking all over myself. And maybe do it as a relaunch, and do them together and do a bundle offer at your launch. So, all right. She has a follow-up. We'll just take this one. Follow up on my question. Should I talk more about the character traits alongside of the educational awareness that we are telling in a guide dog story?
I mean, I think that's a great idea when you're going to schools. I mean, the guide dog story in itself has that awareness with how do I handle, how do I interact when I see someone who is blind, or I'm interacting with them, and it gives children obviously the tips and the ability to be able to do that. But your book has such a greater level when it does have the character traits. So schools, yes, they want the guide dog story, but I think the character traits is something that they can really build upon in the teaching. And that's why it's really good that you have both.
For sure. All right. Well, what do you say we wrap it up with that one? And we will, I think, I can't see everybody in the chat and who's on with us, but if you're in BMA and Book Marketing Pro Academy, hopefully you're in our Facebook group. So continue to put your questions in the Facebook group, and we'll have more Q&As over the summer, and we'll definitely be keeping up with your questions. All right. And do you have any closing wisdom and thoughts, Carol?
Wow. I didn't really prepare.
Give your deepest wisdom right now.
My deepest wisdom is you probably should eat lunch before you go live, because I'm feeling a little cloudy right now because I haven't had any protein today. So always eat your protein. And then once you do, you're going to be able to really engage in all the marketing things you need to do with your book.
That's right. So there you go. There's your words of wisdom for the day. Eat your protein first. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week. at fUNfiltered. All right.
Filtered.
Till next
Bye,
time. Bye.